Hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Shane, and in this video, my quest is to craft a Murloc from World of Warcraft out of polymer clay. I'm also intending on making a scene from one of my favorite quests and zones, Elwynn Forest. Let's get into it. I'm going to try my best to capture the pose of this Murloc. He's got a real stabby stance that just screams. I am only going to give myself 3 of those throughout this video, and I guess I'll forfeit that as one of them. I started building the skeleton with armature wire, then building up those forms with aluminum foil to save on Super Sculpey. The Murloc is one of, if not the most iconic monsters that you encounter in Classic WoW. At least in my opinion they are. They're incredibly cool looking, and just when you think the coast is clear when fighting mobs, quite literally a coast runner Murloc comes sprinting up to ruin your day when you're not ready. And they were definitely the first thing I thought of when I decided to sculpt something from World of Warcraft. Do you have a favorite enemy in WoW? Let me know in the comments what that is, and maybe someday I can try my hand at making it. There's always a point in a build when I look at it and go, oof, I just need to trust the process. This is one of those moments. The process being adding bits of clay where I think the shape should be more organic looking, then just blending it all in with a silicone tool. I kind of want to make a dragon whelpling next, because then I can work in an LED filament and make it look like it's casting a fireball at a running gnome or something. This may be a reference to my girlfriend's first hardcore WoW character death. It was around this point that I started noticing that there was not a lot of armature wire left for this guy's legs. How could this adversely affect the build and my invested time? Find out in about 30 seconds. I tried surgically removing his leg, adding a little more armature wire, and then bulking it back up with more clay. But I knew deep down that this was going to be the only point of contact, and I wanted that to be strong and supportive. So, I restarted the sculpt. But I'm not going to make you watch me make that over again. So let's fast forward with the magic of editing. This is the new armature. He's got a supportive rod on his right leg. I got him back to around where we left off with our last Murloc. I think I technically killed the last Murloc, which means that I've leveled up my sculpting profession to make passable musculature. Tooth holes were added in the mouth, as well as a tongue, but I ended up doing something different for the teeth later on in the video. I put a sliver of clay under the tongue to encourage it to stay in a what does that human's rib cage taste like sort of angle. After testing out my texture roller on his body, I began sculpting the left leg. This one was going to be a little more tricky due to it being elevated. Oh man, the thought of putting a foot on that cankle was stressing me out, so I decided to warm up with the supported leg first. I added the webbing and the medial malleolus, then started the other foot. I had as much of a plan attaching this to the ankle as I had pre-existing knowledge as to what a medial malleolus was. Nailed it. Malleolus is an epic name. That's the Murloc's name now. He is now known as Malleolus of Crystal Lake. It gets even better. Malleolus means small hammer. If I hadn't already made his polearm at the time of this voiceover recording, he'd be swinging a one-handed mace in this diorama. Where was I? I added some fresh gums, angry eyebrows, and started building up the muscly arms. Malleolus isn't some Westfall beachcomber. We're making him yoked. Picture your typical Venice Beach muscle Murloc. The fins and teeth were cut from polymer clay, then baked. This allowed them to be stronger and didn't leave marks or divots in the clay. This helped out with insertion into the new gum line I made that much easier. Then I can move on to the claws. They were made similarly to the feet, but given some small knuckle details. Once I had a mutant claw and a mutated claw, I attached them both.
Malleolus attacks the Eastvale logging camp.
Then it was just a matter of cleaning up the edges post-bake. I needed these strong enough to withstand all sorts of reeds and projectiles from pesky adventurers, so screwing a small hole into the fin and neck of our Clear Lake champion, then adding steel garden wire and superglue did just that. Any cracks were filled with baking soda to make an immediate and strong bond with the glue. So, I accidentally made a snow cone, and I can't even stand to look at it. Oh, sorry. I accidentally made a snow cone, and I truly hate it. I need to reprime it white, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm sure there are many throughout Azeroth that are the same color, but in Elwynn Forest, these guys are called Murloc foragers. They are red, green, with little bits of yellow. Believe it or not, this was my third attempt at painting Maleolus. The second time I tried with yellow and I accidentally made Rasta Murloc. Because we aren't in Sen'jin Village in Durotar, I decided to leave it out on this attempt. I'm glad I did so. It leaves more room for appreciating the neat accents of beige and blue these guys have that splash across their head. It was just time for the finishing touches on Maleolus now. Some orange highlights on the reds, an off-white color on the teeth, a slightly more on-white for the eyes, and deep red coloring to the base of the fins. I definitely planned for the dark to light gradient on the tops of them. Definitely not a complete mistake that both saved me time and looked super cool. I added Volupus pink to the middle of the eye, then wiped it away with a slightly drier brush. Then I could add the pupil. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to craft a base. Originally, I wanted to create those shacks that Murlocs hide under in this piece, but then I remembered that Maleolus doesn't hide from anything. I also kept it simple for the sake of easily readable storytelling too, I guess. If you make striations when a plaster of Paris mix is still wet, once it starts to dry, you can run a damn finger through those divots to soften those channels of material. This can create a pretty cool sand effect. Once it's properly dried, you can remove any plaster to better fit the base of your main character. I painted the sand a simple tan, raw sienna for the embankment, and added blue to where I planned on pouring resin. After the grass patch got green, I added what I think is the most effective part of the entire painted base. Highlights of that base color tan got reapplied to the ridges of those sand striations we discussed just a moment ago. When I started this build, I wanted our main subject running through the water, but as I sculpted him, I realized it would be pretty sweet if instead he was about to leap from a rock, stabbing the viewer, that would be you and I in this instance, in the face with a throaty battle call. This scene in my eyes is deserving of reeds that I've given a slight gradient paint job in order to hide their plasticky look. After I add them to the diorama, I cover the whole soon-to-be resin section in a slightly different type of resin. That being UV resin, which locks Maleolus into place and also limits air pockets from below. And finally, I add a 2-inch deep pour resin. The brand is Illumalite, if you're interested. For the polearm, glaive, spear, sword thing, I cut away excess polymer clay and before baking, poked the guard with the stick that'll eventually become the shaft of the weapon. I made a pommel for the base of it as well, using the same method. Trimming the edges of the clay post-bake is the easiest way for me to easily achieve believable sharp points. After supergluing parts together, I added more baking soda to strengthen those joints. Once it was strong enough to play around with, I couldn't resist giving it a couple stabs and some RP. Do you remember when I said I was only going to do that 3 times in this video?
That's what made you did. I lied.
Styrene tube is used to give some more variation to the weapon. I sanded it down after cutting off little segments, glued them on, then added twine to serve as a grip. I painted the weapon a mishmash of iron and copper colors, and the wood a fine wood color. I also painted that end cap. It isn't attached yet to make for easier insertion into the Murloc's hands later. I applied little bits of rust effects to the stabby part, and was on to the final finishing touch of the entire diorama. The ribs of Rolf, or Malachi, one of the 2 guards that went missing from the quest Find the Lost Guards, that inspired this entire piece. After using that same beige tan that you've seen me use for all sorts of stuff on this project, I added Skeleton Horde contrast wash over the bones and wiped away the excess. Blood for the Blood God makes an appearance as well. I removed the acrylic walls, cleaned up the edges, and made some splash rings around the feet. After adding water ripples, I pushed up on those ripples when nearly dry for a cool splash effect. It's so easy, it doesn't even matter which side of the tool you use. Opaque modeling paste is added to the highest peaks. And with that done, my quest was complete. Here are the final shots of the piece. Well, there you have it. There's Melialis the Murloc of Crystal Lake. I really loved sculpting him. I enjoyed editing this video and sharing it with you. If you enjoyed the video and you have someone in your life that loves Murlocs or detests them as much as you, sending them the link would be really helpful for the growth of the video and the channel. Otherwise, if you're new here and you enjoyed yourself, liking and subscribing is also very helpful. With that being said, I appreciate you making it this far in the video, and I'll see you next time.